Hi everybody, it's Oksana, and today I'm going to show you how to make this Elven amulet, as I called it. So if you want to see how to make this, then just keep watching. So I'm starting out with 2 pieces of 20 gauge wire. This first piece is like 8 inches about, and the second piece is shorter. It's about 3.5. And I'm putting this piece so it's kind of close to the middle, like this. And I'm going to want to weave, I have some 26 gauge wire here, I'm going to want to weave right in the middle of that. So I'm kind of noting where that would be, just for about like an inch. And then I'm taking my weaving wire, I'm weaving myself a really nice long tail that I will use later to weave in the other direction. I don't know how long this tail is, maybe like 24 inches or so. And I'm putting this in between. And I'm going up, and I'm doing 2 little loops. And then I'm around both wires, and then I'm doing 4 around just the bottom. And I think I just mentioned it, but just in case I didn't, this is 26 gauge wire, and you can also use 28 if you would like, or really any gauge that you prefer. They will all work well. So I am going to do this a few more times, and then I'll come back and show you what to do next. Alright, so I have 9 of these, like if you count the part where it goes over 2 wires, like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, so I have 9 of those. So what you want to do is you want to pick the middle one. You want an odd number, and you want to pick the middle one. So for me, I'm going to have 4 on one side, 4 on the other side, and 1 in the middle. So once you get to that middle one, you want to bend these up. So now this is even. There's 4 little wraps on each side. Just trying to get the same height. Now I'm taking these wires that are shorter, and I'm bending them out of the way. You can kind of point them towards the front or towards the back, whatever helps you keep them out of your way. So here's what it should look like. Now I'm going to take 2 more pieces of 20 gauge wire. This is also about 3.5, 4 inches long, just like that original shorter piece. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to do this on both sides, is I'm putting this, kind of centering it a little bit, so I have a nice long piece here, and then here, right here. And I'm continuing with my weave. So as you can see, the way that I stopped is I stopped right after I did those 2 around both. I just did 1 little wrap around the very bottom. So since I'm continuing with my pattern, I'm going to do the second. So 2, 3, and 4. So my pattern continues with 4 around the bottom, and then 2 around both. Except this time the both is this new wire that we have added. So here's what that should look like so far. And what you can do is you can take this end now, and you can bend that upwards. So I'm going to do this pattern just a little bit more. And later you can use your pliers to get these bends to be nice and sharp and having all these wires line up nicely. Alright, so now that I have 3 here, that's about enough for me. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bend the other side of that as well. And I'm going to do the same exact thing on this side. So I'm continuing with that weaving pattern. This is a long tail that I had left myself. So I'm doing, there was already 1, so I'm doing 2, 3, and 4. And then I'm adding that other wire. And I'm going around both of them. I'm going to do the exact same thing where I'm going to do that 3 times. And then I'll bend my wires upwards. Just exact repeat of the other side. So here's what I have so far. I finished the side exactly like that one. Don't really worry about these wires yet. I just bent them to keep them all out of the way, but in terms of like which overlaps which, we'll do that all later. So now we're going to get some more base wires to add. Alright, so the last addition of wires, I have 2 more pieces here, 20 gauge wire. These are a little longer, these are about 5 inches. I just wanted them to be extra long because they're gonna turn into the bail, so I'm leaving myself a little bit here. Or actually, first I need to finish these wraps here. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm doing basically the exact same thing. I'm just adding this in the same way that I added the wires previously. I got twisted. Alright, so I weaved for a little bit longer here, keeping this kind of in the back. So after 1, 2, 3, on this third one here, I am going to bend it this way. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of see where they meet up. I'm going to make sure it's the same number, like after this bend. So on 3 is the bend, and then it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 more of these wraps that go around the both wires. So I'm going to do the same thing here where it's 5, and then I'm going to see if they meet up or not. They probably won't. It looks like it needs just a little bit more of a way to go. So then I'm going to do equal numbers. Like I'll add maybe number 6 here, number 6 on the other side, see if they meet up. Basically, I want them to be even number of wraps, and I want them to meet up here at the top so that we can bend them upwards and make our bail. Alright, so the number that I ended up doing is I have 3, 1, 2, 3 going up to the bend, and then I have 7 on each side going up to the very top, and then that gets me close enough. So what I'm going to do now is this little tail that one of these sides has, I'm going to cut that off and pinch that down. But I am leaving the weaving wire that I have on my spool here. I'm leaving that. So I am bending these up. Until they're like this. And then I'm taking my weaving wire let me put this in the front here. Okay, I'm taking my weaving wire and I am holding these a nice distance away from each other. The problem is these will move around. So if you can get your thumb in there, or at least like the nail, just to like hold them still, that'll help them from moving. So what I'm going to do is I'm bringing my wire up the back and I am wrapping it once around this top wire here. And I have a tutorial on this weaving pattern as well. Going down, and underneath the second one I'm going up one. So now it looks like it's coming right in between the top here. Then I'm bringing it to the back, down, up, over the very bottom wire, up, over the second one, in between them, from back to front, over that top one to the back, up the back. This is repeating now. And I will link my video on this weave if you need to watch it again. But that's a weave that I'm doing, and it looks nicer if there's some spacing between the top two and the bottom two wires, rather than being all together. So that's why I'm trying to keep this space here. Oops. So this is going to be our bail. So however tall you want your bail to be, that's how much you need to weave. So this is how tall I made mine. And then I cut my weaving wire and I pinched down the end. So now we're going to leave the bail alone for a bit. We're going to finish that up later at the end. Just one thing to do here real quick is push that weave down. And there we go. Mine got like a little crooked there for a minute. And once it's even, just go like that. This will prevent it from sliding up now that we got it in place, you know. So now I'm going to work on these wires here. So the one that's going here and then bending upwards, going here, it's this one. And on the other side, it's this one. And I brought them to the very, very back, so they're behind all of my other wires. And one of mine was slightly longer than the other, so I trimmed it, so now they're the same. And they're just a little longer than my frame. And I need them to be a little longer because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a little loop using my round nose pliers. And I want that loop to be such that it makes my curl go up right up against my frame. And I'm going to do that on the other side as well. So like that, almost looks like a little heart. Make this a little closer so they're even. And now, I'm going to do that. I'm making sure that these are the next two. So the very, very back wire for me, let me use something as a pointer. The very, very back wire for me is this one. And then this one is next, right on top of it. And then it's this one here. And then it's this one here. That's kind of the order that they're going. So I'm going to cut this just a little bit taller than my frame. And I'm going to curl the end of it. I'm going to do that on the other side as well. And I'm just going to use my pliers. See how this one is not very straight? It's kind of like bent. Just going to fix that a little bit there. So now I'm working on my next wires. So these have all been in the back. The next one is this one here, this one, and then this one is on top of that. So this one is in the back of this one. And those are the next two that I'm going to be working on. So these two bottom ones, I'm just kind of bending them towards me to keep them out of the way. So these are the next two. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut them this much. So they are shorter than my frame. They're just a little taller than these wires going in here. And then I'm going to take the end of it and curl it. Like that. So they are kind of touching these ones here. Because we are going to be attaching all of these, so they're not going to, you know, stick out and get caught. So now I'm working on the very bottom ones, and what I'm doing is I'm just bending them like this, so instead of going straight and overlapping, they're now curling down. And I'm going to cut them just a little bit. Let me see here. I think that this one here needs to be a little shorter. There we go. So they're even. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little curl. Like that. And I'm going to arrange them so they are touching the very edge of the frame. So here's what I have going on right now. And here's what we're going to do to attach all of these. So I have some 28 gauge wire. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut myself a piece, maybe like 10 inches or so. And I'm going to start with the very back one, which is this one here. What I'm going to do is I'm basically coiling my weaving wire around. So I left a little tail, which I will trim off. And I'm doing a few individual wraps so that my weaving wire stays. Basically, that's the only reason. Because if I only do like one or two and then you pull on it, it'll just pop right off. But because I have so many, it's going to be kind of stable. So now I'm bringing this, because the way that it's going is kind of to the front, I'm bringing it to the back. And then, here's my back. You want to try and squeeze that in through your two base wires. This might be a little tricky, and if you can't do that, that's totally fine. You can just wrap around both of them. If you have one of those like needle things, I forget what it's called, but I have like this tool for polymer clay that allows me to, it's just like a needle and you can kind of poke it in and widen this little opening so you can put the wire through there. But if you can't do that, if your wires are tight, that's totally fine. You can just wrap around both instead of just the bottom one. And that's actually what I'm going to do. It actually doesn't really look much different. And if you pull it tight, it kind of goes, you can feel it pop right in between the weave up here, so it won't be very noticeable. And then I am just coiling this a few times around my wire, the base wire here, to finish attaching it. Alright, let me kind of press that down. So let me show you up close what that looks like. So what I want to do is trim these little ends and pinch that down. And that is how we're going to attach all of these. Now we're taking this weaving wire, we're bringing it, so right now it's coming from the back, and so I'm bringing it kind of under this so it comes out through here. See that? Now you could attach this the same way, but this is easier because you don't have to start a new weaving wire. So I'm going to weave just a few times around this wire. Alright, so now I'm attaching it by going around those top two wires, just wrapping around. Now I'm wrapping just a few single times around this wire here. I'm going to go just so it's even with this side. So I'm going to keep wrapping it until it's even with that side. And then I will trim it. Alright, so what you need to do now is attach all of these wires. Just going to do it the same way as we did this first one. Wrap a little bit with the weaving wire, wrap around the top, a few more wraps just to secure it. Cut it off. So this way all of these little loops are attached. Alright, so I finished attaching those. That's what it looks like. And now we're going to work on the bail. There are going to be some optional little beads I'm going to attach in there, but I'm going to leave those for last in case somebody doesn't want to do them. So I just have this little gizmo. I honestly don't know what it's called. But if you just have like a little pencil or something just to shape this to make the bail. So I'm bringing the wires from the bail here. So these are the outer wires. Here, let me show you from the back. It's like this outer wire going, and the ones that are closer, like the inner ones, I have them here in the front, crossing over. See that? So I'm crossing them over, and I'm bringing them to the back. And then here on the back, there's really not a lot of room to work with because you don't want it to be noticeable from the front. Alright, sorry I didn't talk you through that. My dogs were barking, so I had to remove the audio, but I crossed these over and kind of pinched them back here. Now these ones, my wire got a little bent here, but I'm gonna put them right on the side of my bail. Try to straighten that out a little. And I'm gonna cut them just about the same height as the bail, maybe just a smidge, you know, above. And now I'm taking my round nose pliers and I am curling that. Like this. Alright. So now, this is all that you want to do. Your pendant is complete. But if you do want to add a little bit of beads, then you can just take a little bit of 28 gauge wire. Alright, so here's my little crystal bead. It's on a 28 gauge wire. I'm just holding it. And I'm using that 28 gauge wire to wrap around this wire here, to attach it, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And that's how I'm going to secure that bead on there. So the more little wraps you do, the more secure it will be, but probably about 4 should be adequate. So now I'm going to do that on this side as well. And in this manner, you can add as many beads as you want to any of the little empty spaces in this pendant. And I'm going to go ahead and actually do that after I finish showing you how to add this one. The rest I'm just going to add off camera in the same exact manner. My wire was a little bit overlapping. Still is overlapping. There we go. So then you would just trim this little weaving wire and pinch it down with your pliers. And here it is with just one little bead. I might pop some in some of these empty spaces. I'm going to see what beads I have, and I'll be back to show you guys what that looks like. So here it is when it's all done. Just showing it in a black background because it's kind of see-through. So it's easier to see this way. I just added a larger bead down here and a tiny bead up here. And that's it. And I am going to oxidize this, so I'll show you guys what it looks like when it's oxidized. That's what it looks like. Just with the white background. Here's what it looks like when it's oxidized. So that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.